Hey guys, before we start today's show, I want to talk to you about a couple different things, really. Obviously, in today's crazy world with governments going tyrannical across the globe, from Australia to Austria, and even right here in the United States, it's more important than ever not only to have your own personal mobility and ability to move around to make income wherever you move, but also to protect your wealth. And our friend Mikhail Thorup of the Expat Money Show is the best of the best at helping you do that. And he has a podcast, the Expat Money Show. You should definitely subscribe and listen to that. But today, what I'm here to talk to you about is some free materials, some free information. They're going to help you to sleep like a baby, knowing that no one will ever raid your personal Fort Knox. What Mikhail has put together, it is a free infographic report. It's 19 international strategies to protect and grow your wealth. It's going to help you to safeguard and grow multi-generational wealth for your dependents, to get ironclad protection so strong that no lawyer will ever consider suing you. Really, it's going to make creditors, terrified to even look at your personal assets, and it'll help you to defend yourself from governments trying to steal your money through taxation. As libertarians, we know taxation is theft, but guys, arm yourself with something that is going to help you to fight back against those overreaching, coercive governments. You can go to expatmoneyshow.com/lions to pick up that report today. That's expatmoneyshow.com/lions, and go there today and get your free report.
We are born free, and we will die free. The time in between, though, that's complicated. In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Odermatt.
All right, my guest today on Finding Freedom is Angela Wright. Angela Wright is another first-time nonviolent offender on this show. We've had so many of them, who was, in my opinion, very much over-sentenced and did a lot of time in prison. So she was convicted of conspiracy to distribute 50 or more kilos of cocaine. Prior to her time in prison, she was a school teacher. So her sentence, the one that she got before it was reduced, was 364 months in prison. She ended up serving 13 years, 10 months, and 20 days. She was finally released on January 13th of this year, 2021. Angela, welcome to Finding Freedom.
Thank you so much for having me, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to get to speak with you. And, I always got to thank Malik King for, making these connections and helping to, bring these stories forward. So without people like Malik, introducing me to people, and these podcasts like this really wouldn't happen. So
Malik King is an angel sent. He kept up in touch with me the entire time. I was incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And one particular time I did about 17 months in the SHU, which is solitary confinement. Mm-hmm. And he made sure I had literature to read, and he just kept me abreast. So he's just a godsend. I love Malik.
He's the best. So let's the way we'll do this is we'll kind of start at the beginning and go through your story kind of from beginning until where you are today. So going back to, before you were arrested, before you were convicted, sentenced, all that stuff, you were a school teacher, right?
Yes, I was a school teacher. I'm originally born and raised in New Jersey. I came to Atlanta and I attended Clark Atlanta University, went to college there, and I graduated and taught school for about 2 years for the city of Atlanta. Gideon's Elementary is where I taught third grade. And actually, one of my students, I ended up getting custody of him because his parents, were on drugs and everything. So I ended up getting custody of him. But yes, I taught school, and then kind of got caught up. And it just,
Yeah. So what happened to take us through that period in your life?
Okay, so for one, John, I always just like had a knack for dating bad guys. So I've always mostly dated drug dealers. So,
Hmm.
dating drug dealers along with that, that lifestyle just comes greed. Greed. So greed set in, and then like I had like play brothers and friends. So it was easy for me to be able to make connections. So was like the go-to girl. And at first I started out just counting money. And I used to get paid to count money, package it up, bundle it for it to be, sent to where it had to go. And from there, I kind of just started like, hey, I know such and such that want such and such, and like brokering deals, brokering
Hmm.
cocaine deals or whatever. And next thing you know, I was full fledged in it. Stopped teaching school and just was full fledged in the streets.
Well, you said you grew up not in Atlanta. Where'd you grow up originally?
I was born and raised in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I attended high school at Lakewood.
Okay.
Father's a pastor, mom's a nurse. I'm the first one to graduate college and the first one to go to prison. Yeah, so.
So your upbringing in New Jersey was pretty far removed from. Would you say it was far removed from that lifestyle that you got into in Atlanta?
Very far removed. We
Yeah.
we were a family. My father, outside of pastor, he also worked at Ford Motor Company.
Hmm.
As a little girl, my dad worked at Ford Motor Company, and my mom was a housewife up until probably I would say about the sixth grade. Then she went to school, nursing school, and became a nurse. But we had the type of family, John, where we sat down and ate dinner together every night at the same time
Hmm.
and said a Bible verse before we ate dinner, because my father, I come from a very Christian back, home. So that lifestyle was just far removed. And then when I did get involved, it was like, living a double life, basically.
Yeah. So when you got yourself in that situation and you're getting involved in the drug trade, um, and maybe you didn't realize it until you were arrested, but did you start to get a sense like, oh man, I'm getting myself in a situation here. If I get, caught here, I could end up doing, a bunch of time.
I never thought it would be that much time. I had
Hmm.
friends who went to prison and everything. So, with anything, I'm a pretty smart girl. I'm not oblivious to laws and stuff like that. But I just didn't think it would be that much time. I knew it was a possibility of getting in trouble, but I always felt like I would say, oh, I'll get 5 years and I'll be home in 3. I'll
Hmm.
serve 3 years. I'll be home. That's light. I can do that. I used to joke and say, oh, I could do that standing on my head. But when it came down to it, no, it was quadruple that.
So at what point in time did you know what they were charging you with and the potential time that you could serve? Was that pretty immediate after the arrest, or did that
No,
take some
immediately
time?
after the arrest, they take you to a room, of course, and try to get you to cooperate. And of course, I wasn't cooperating.
Hmm.
So they tell you things like, "Oh, you're never going to see your parents, and you never see your son again. Your parents will be dead." They tell you all these things, but in my head, I'm like, "No, that's not true. I've never been in any trouble before. I'm not thinking about
Hmm.
y'all. That's what I'm saying." But I just didn't say anything. I didn't find out exactly how much time I was facing until what's called a pre-sentencing investigation report came out, and time I had already been in jail maybe 4 months, about 4 months. I had been in jail. And then that's when I got the pre-sentencing investigation report. And it said that I was facing 360 months to life.
So the pre-sentencing investigation report, this was after the conviction?
Yes, it comes after the conviction.
Okay. So what kind of legal representation did you have?
I had a paid lawyer the first time and the second time. First lawyer was Clifford Davis out of Monticello, Florida, because my case was over the Panhandle, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, but I was
Hmm.
tried down in Panama City, Florida, and I retained a guy named Clifford Davis, paid $75,000 for nothing because I ended up with 30 years, and
Yeah.
once we lost, he was saying, "Oh, you always have a back door." Could tell, but he knew that cooperating wasn't even an option for me. So yeah, that was my first lawyer, and then I had a second appeal lawyer out of Jacksonville, Florida, but nothing worked. $100,000 in, John, and nothing worked. And you believe it or not, my first sentence reduction came from a lady in prison who wrote a motion for me. You know how much I paid her? A creamer and a coffee, and she didn't want that. So it's about $8 to get like 8 years off my sentence.
Now that's value right there. I mean, come on.
Yeah, great value.
You can't beat that. So the other co-conspirators in your case, what kind of time did they get?
Okay, so I was indicted originally by myself. I got indicted by myself, and then on February 24th. And then about 3 weeks later, they came back and gave me a superseding indictment and gave me a co-defendant, which was the guy that I was dating at the time. And what I didn't know, unbeknownst to me at the time when they did that, it was because he started cooperating. So he was facing a mandatory minimum of 20 because he had been in trouble before. So they told him if he told on me that they would cut his time. So he gave me up, and they gave him, he only got 10 years. And out of the 10 years, he ended up getting a crack law reduction. I think he might have served 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is what they call the justice system. I mean, that's just insanity.
And what's crazy, everyone who testified against me all had a background, all had been in trouble before. I was the only one, but basically it was like my education was used against me, because when the judge was sentencing me, he made the remark that he seen women come in his courtroom, you know, maybe rented a car, put phones in their name, had money, or held drugs at their house. But he never seen a woman such as myself to manipulate everybody else, use them as puppets, as he said, to alleviate the possibility of ever getting caught with drugs in my hands. So he said I was smart and I just manipulated everybody else. So my education basically backfired on me.
So they, what kind of evidence did they have? Did they have any evidence other than the hearsay testimony of all these people who come through who obviously had something to gain, either in sentence reduction or, there's incentives obviously in their favor to speak out against you in favor of themselves?
Yeah, they had no wiretaps, no surveillance. They didn't have anything. They had 11 kilos in the courtroom that a driver had got caught with, pulled over with, leaving Atlanta, going back to Florida. But even that, my fingerprints wasn't on anything. They basically just had hearsay testimony. Everyone testified against me for exchange of a lighter sentence for themselves. It's called the dry conspiracy. That's what they call it in the dress. It's called a dry conspiracy.
Why do you know why they call it a dry conspiracy?
Because it's basically no tangible evidence, nothing like a wiretap or anything like that. So they call it a dry conspiracy. Okay,
I've heard it like the drugs in a case like that referred to as ghost dope.
Yeah, now the ghost dope. Okay, so like I said, they had 11 kilos in the courtroom, but they charged me with 154. And then at sentencing, I think the judge took it down to 76. But that was the ghost dope, because the physical dope that they had in the courtroom was 11.
And that was just all of the dope added up based on whatever
the guy that I was dating, he said, oh, John, it was horrible. It was a circus. It was people who I had never even met before on the stand saying, oh, yeah, I got 3 kilos from her this time.
What was it like just having to sit there, not being able to say anything and hearing that stuff?
It was, John, I didn't sit there and not say anything. I almost ended up with life because I got a 3-point enhancement. During court, I had an outburst. The guy that I was dating, he got off the stand and after he testified, looked at me and mouthed the words, "I love you." And I lost it. I lost it. I lost it during the break, and, just told him, things, I did say horrible things, but it was out of anger. How could you love me? You standing here, basically, you ruining my life is the way I was seeing it. So they had what they called obstruction of justice. So they were saying I was obstructing justice and intimidating a witness. But thank God at sentencing, the judge didn't. He said, we have to see, he didn't give me the 3-point enhancement that would have given me life. I would have had life because it would have pushed me to level 41.
Wow. Yeah,
so it was extremely hard sitting there watching people, especially people that people that you've helped, point the finger and say, she did it. And most of them were men. You know, most of them were supposed to be men anyway. They
Yeah.
mostly were men. So it was hard and it was hurtful. And then I think with him, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just had an outburst.
So after going through all of that during your trial, you finally get your sentence, and you know what you're facing. What was your mindset like at that point in time? You know, knowing that you're going to be in there, you ended up
For the
serving.
first like 3 days, yeah, for like I was 30 years old at the time when it happened. So like for the first 3 days, I kind of just shut down. Actually, my mom ended up calling the jail, telling them like, you know, my daughter hasn't called home. But I just kind of like shut down. You know, didn't come out. I really didn't come out that pod anyway when in the county jail. But I just kind of just shut down and just like slept and just was thinking like, wow, you know. But after I snapped out of it and everything after those 3 days, John, I just told myself I had to fight. You know, I've been a fighter. One thing about me, I got a lot of mouth, a lot of smarts, and I'm a fight to, you know, till it's over with. So I just told myself, you know, I just got to fight to try to, you know, to get out of prison. And then every time I lost the appeal or something like that, I did get sad, and I would call my father. You know, he had to bring me back to reality, you know, because I just had those moments. But for the most part, I just had to just keep telling myself, just fight, just fight, just fight. You know, something will come through. But it was like, it was shocking. Like, man, this America, they really give people 30 years and that's never off of what somebody said. You know, that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had some family support from your parents. How important was that to you, being able to give you, you know, the strength to make it through?
Oh God, I thank God for my parents. You know, even though like, you know, we were spoiled as kids and everything and wasn't raised like that, they never once turned their back on me, John. They never once said you knew better or, you know, anything like that. What they used to just tell me, we're going to get through it. You know, we'll get through it is what they tell me. So that was extremely important. And more importantly, they made sure I was able to maintain a good relationship with my son. My mom brought my son to see me. When I first went to prison, they would come every weekend and stay the entire weekend. And then as time went on, I was able to, you know, cope with my time. So I told them they didn't have to come all the time. And I didn't want my son having to spend his weekends, you know, visiting me inside of a facility, especially when he was starting to become a teenager. You know, he played ball and teens want to have a life, you know, so I understood that. So they came less, but I always got to see him, always was able to call home, never wanted for anything. Only thing I couldn't do was leave prison. And I had great friends too. You know, my best friends, you know, from my childhood, and then girls that I met while I was in Atlanta, my friend Toya and my friend Dee, they came to see me. Monica, my best friend Talisha, like, so I had a really good support system. Me and my sister, super close. She always came. Having visits and seeing those familiar faces, it makes a difference. And I always receive mail, John, from everywhere. I always receive mail. Like it was towards the end of my sentence, it was a stand-in joke, because mail call is like the big thing of the day in prison, you know, so they call it out, or either they put a list. That's one girl like,
it's like the videos break. Looks like our connection's breaking up here. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, you were cutting in and out there for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can just pick it up. So you were talking about always receiving mail.
Yeah, and it was like a stand-in joke, you know, like I had to be sending mail to myself because how did I get mail every day? But it was because of the support system that I had, and I'm thankful. And even coming home, it just makes a difference having people that support you, solid people, you know, that's not in the streets, that wasn't into that lifestyle, and you know, coming home, it makes the transition so much more easier.
Yeah. I don't know how people seeing people on both sides who have support from their family and friends and people who don't. I mean, the ones who make it through and, you know, make it out of the system without that support, I don't know how they do it.
I really can say it, you know, it's, I couldn't imagine it, you know, and coming home, that the one thing while I was in prison, I wanted to start a nonprofit for children whose parents are incarcerated, because I was able to see the difference between my child and somebody else's child. And I was able to see women who had not seen their children. One girl hadn't seen her child in 10 years. And I couldn't imagine not seeing my child for 10 years. So that really touched me. And I know it's hard for children on that end, as well as me being in prison and witnessing women. It makes them more angrier. Fights are more prone to happen. And, it's just bad on both ends. So the support really does make a difference. That's why I always tell people, like, if you have someone incarcerated, if you don't do anything but send them a card, send them pictures, it counts. Malik would do stuff like, like when the boards changed that Wendy's to electronic and everything, I was in prison. So Malik would send pictures of things that changed on the outside. And it made a difference because when I come home, everything isn't just a stark, shocker to me. It's like I've seen it before,
No, I'm sure that helps a ton. Just to ease even those little things. I'm sure they ease the adjustment back in, just a little bit. That helps.
Yeah.
So to talk a little bit more about your time in prison, and then we'll get to you getting free. This is called Finding Freedom. So we'll talk about that and talk about a little more about your adjustment. Getting back into life on the outside, but in prison. So we talked about your family supporting you and helping you. What was the rest of your experience like? Was it? Talk about from the inside. Was it? Really difficult? Were you able to adjust to it and sort of? Some people thrive sort of in that. It's a weird thing to say, but some people do very well in that environment in prison. Did you struggle with it?
In the beginning, it was kind of hard. I felt like I couldn't adjust because, for one, like I said, I am mouthy. And two, I really just don't like people telling me what to do. So it was a hard adjustment. And then I was in an open bay, what they call an open bay dorm. And that means that it's like 100 beds. Imagine a warehouse and just 100 bunk beds in that warehouse. So you wake up, you look around, people looking at you. You go to sleep, people looking at you. It's no sense of privacy whatsoever. So that was really hard to be in an open dorm with like a bunch of women I did not know. I felt like I didn't have anything in common with them. It was just really, really hard. And I hung around a lot of dudes. So that was another hard adjustment to get used to being around women every day. And then the guards, that was an adjustment. Me and my mouth, some of them are so nasty. And it took me some time. It took me some time to adjust. And I can say it probably took me 8 years to stop getting in trouble. I got in a lot of trouble. Yeah, it took me about 8 years to stop going to the shoe. One day I called my father because when you go to the shoe, you only allow one phone call every 30 days. So being that my father still lived in New Jersey and my mother was closer to me in Atlanta, I would use my one phone call to call my father and tell him, like, tell mommy to make sure y'all send me books. I need, 5 magazines. I can have this. I can have that. So this one particular time, John, I called him and told him, Daddy, I'm back in the shoe. Make sure you send me magazines. He said, oh, no, it stops. This is it. He said, I agree to do the time with you, but this is double time and I'm not doing it. So that kind of was like a wake up call, like they tired of me being in the shoe. They tired of me not being able to call, but it was hard. It was hard to adjust. It was hard. It was hard.
What was the longest stretch you had in the shoe?
17 months.
Wow.
17 months, 23-1. It's 23-1, Sunday through Thursday. Friday is 24 hours. And you only get to shower Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So as a woman, so the other days I had to stand up in the sink and wash up, It was just hard. I know the president and everybody senators, I know they got tired of me writing because I just felt like it was just inhumane. Okay, it's one thing to be punished. It's a whole nother thing to just add this into it. That's inhumane. We're women and we can't take a shower. And then when they do take you out to take a shower, they take you out of handcuffs. When you get to the shower, and when they take it from the time they take the handcuffs off, they tell you they have 10 minutes. If it's a nasty guard, they literally mean 10 minutes. And that's just, women, it's just so much we have to do in the shower. It's not like a man. And especially like John, like that time of month for women, it's just, but hey, it's prison and they feel like you put yourself there, so you have to deal with it. So 17 months was the longest stretch that I did.
What was that? Can you say what that was for? What caused you being there for 17 months?
Yeah, I can tell you what it was. It was the prosecutor and them being nasty. What was happening was they wanted some guys and they knew that I had connection to the guys. So what they did was they made it seem like I had a court date, which is a writ. and brought me back down to Florida to prison, and basically just had me in the shoe, basically just tortured me. And every time, I tried to explain to the warden and what was going on, no one really believed me. It took for the region to come around. Harvey Lappin at the time was the BOP. He was a regional director. And of course, they tell you don't talk to them when they come. But I didn't have anything to lose. At this time, I had been in the shoe for 16 months. What could you take from me? It was nothing else you could take from me. So when he came around, I explained to him what was going on. And I showed him a letter where I had a motion in court, and the court couldn't even find me. So I don't know what he did, but 2 weeks later, I was back on the airlift and they let me out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking unbelievable.
Yeah. My prosecutor, he wasn't nuts. That man, I used to think, did I know him in another life or something? It was just like, he just had a personal vendetta. But I mean, I get it. He one day he said to me that I'm stupid for sitting in prison, basically, because, I knew so many dudes, so many different ties in different states, where if I would have just given them up, they would cut my sentence. But I wasn't raised like that. Number one, I was raised that you have to handle the consequences for your choices. What you choose to do, you have to handle the consequences. Don't point the finger or point the blame, on anyone else. So that's what I had to stand on.
I mean, that's really got to be a difficult thing to do, especially after you sat there at your own trial and watched everyone flip on you. And then, you're in this situation, you're stuck in solitary confinement for 17 months, and you could have gotten out of it. You just got to testify against one guy. So does that go back to the way you were raised, that's ingrained in you, or where does that come from?
Yeah, it's embedded in me. It's embedded in me, John. You don't, as a kid, you told not to be a tattleteller. Don't be a tattleteller. And as you get older, you just understand that, hey, you have to, if you chose to do it, this is what you chose to do. No one put a gun to your head. No one made you do it. So that it's just ingrained in me. I'm not telling anybody, I'm not ruining anybody else's life. If y'all want them, you get paid. I don't know how many thousands of dollars a year, but you go get them, you do it, because I'm not doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's turn the page here. And I guess first, is there anything I missed in that you want to talk about from your time in prison that's really important to bring out that you want, that I didn't ask you about?
No, not really. I mean,
okay.
I'm pretty sure from all the podcasts you do, you have to adjust in a way like to eat prison food, learn how to cook in the microwave. I didn't know how to make up a prison bed when I got there. They hand you like a bed roll with a blanket and 2 sheets and a pillowcase. And I went back to the guard and I said, you gave me 2 flat sheets. You didn't give me a fitted sheet. She bust out and started laughing at me. She's like, fitted sheet? Girl, you know where you at? You better learn how to tie that bed. So, it was just, it's things like that you have to learn. And I always said, I call prison woo, because it's a world of our own. It's really a separate world inside of the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, there were also very good guards too, that I met along the way. So everybody's not bad. Yeah, I met some really nice people along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's good prison guards, but I mean, from everything I hear, people have done time in prison. I mean, you don't hear a lot of good things about prison guards, and it just kind of makes sense. That's not going to attract, the best and the brightest and the nicest people. Those kind of conditions, people don't want to work in that conditions and do that job. So
yeah, and it's hard on them too. It's stressful. Prison is a stressful environment. So sometimes you understand it, but it was days where, me and my mouth, I had to tell them, don't bring what you got going on out there, in here. So that was a lot of people used to joke and say, oh, they'll be glad when you leave. They probably happier you going than you are, It's a bad joke to say.
So let's talk about the happy part of this story. One of the happy parts of this story is getting released. So can you talk about how that came about? I know that you got your sentence reduced. So actually, maybe talk about that first. If you talk about how you went about getting your sentence reduced.
Okay, so I was taking a creative writing class, and the lady that taught the creative writing class, she would come from the outside and teach. She was saying, "Oh, you just you're a really good writer." And I met this Russian lady in class named Pat, and Pat just kind of took to me. She was like, "I can't believe you have 30 years." hate the government, then we have to do something about it. Pat was that type of person. But I was telling like, Pat, I done fought, it's not too much. If something come through, then maybe so. So what ended up coming through was they created a law called All Drugs -2. And it didn't have to go through Congress. It was through the Sentencing Commission. The Sentencing Commission has the power to change the guidelines. And All Drugs -2 mean all drug offenders, as long as I think you wasn't like a career offender and you were nonviolent, that your level came down 2 points. So I was a level 39. So minus the 2 points, it brought me to level 37. So that took off 8 years and 10 months of my sentence, which brought me down to 21 years and 10 months. And the law went through in 2014, but it was such a backlog because some people got immediate release and everything. Mine didn't come through until February of 2017. But nonetheless, I was still happy. And guess where I was when I got the news?
Where?
In the shoe. That time I was in the shoe for, an officer. They were saying that an officer was bringing me in contraband and all kind of stuff. Yeah, so I was in the shoe once again under investigation. Yeah.
So you find out in the shoe that you're getting a sentence reduction. I'm sure that, lifted your spirits a little bit. So when you finally did get out on compassionate release, how did that play out? Is that something that you knew was coming, or did it come out of nowhere?
No, it didn't come out. Okay, so again, like in 2014 as well, no, 17, Obama had where he had people, the nonviolent offenders, it was a criteria for clemency. So Amy Pova of Can Do Clemency, which is she's a great lady, done a lot of work.
She's the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how, just watching everything she does on, social media, posting about everywhere she's traveling, everyone I don't know how she does it, honestly, but.
But Amy heard about my story, reached out. We started going, back and forth or whatever. So she really tried. At one time, we really thought that I was going to get clemency. And at the time when Amy was doing the clemency, she had a lady named Georgine Arsons who also worked with her. And she was appointed, like they called it, a guardian angel system. Can do so. She was my guardian angel. And this lady went to lengths for me, John. She Senator Cory Booker, he wrote had a letter of recommendation for me to get it. She reached out to so many people, and it just seemed like I was going to get it, but I was denied. And, we was like, just could not believe that I was denied because, again, I had never been in any trouble, and, it just didn't make sense. But, of course, the prosecutor and them, they opposed it, which, is something that needs to change. They shouldn't even have a part in people receiving clemency. And so that went on, but Georgine and I stayed in contact. So much so now I tell her I'm her daughter that stayed out in the sun too long. That's a joke. That's a joke we have. And she when Compassion Release started, she was saying, I really think we should try this, Angela. Of course, sometimes you get tired after so many no's. It's just like, really again. And then so she reached out to a guy named Tommy Walker. I don't know if you heard of Tommy. Tommy did time. He did 25 years. He actually wrote his own motion and got himself out of prison, but he started.
I don't know him. I don't think.
You don't know Tommy Walker? Yeah, it's his organization is called Second Chance for Real.
No, I don't know him. I probably should know him, but
yeah, you should know Tommy. Tommy has helped countless of people. To get out of prison. He got himself out of prison. He's an amazing man. He me, him, and Georgine, and he wrote the motion. And we filed a motion, and the judge granted it. And I was in quarantine at the time because I had COVID. And I didn't even know. And a girl from downstairs came and slid a note under the door telling me oh, Corinne said you get out on January 13th. I'm like, huh? And I didn't believe it. And so the next day I asked my counselor, did you hear that did you hear any news? And he said no. So I just was, I'm like, well, where is they getting it from? So it was hard to believe. Wouldn't give me a phone call. So Friday I raised so much hell. They finally told me I could use the phone for 5 minutes. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, she's like, girl, you know you coming home. And I was like, Ma, is it true? She was like, it's true. The judge signed your paper, you coming home.
So that's got to be amazing. Just, what was your emotions, your feelings, just in that moment when you find out after all this time, all the times going and doing 17 months in the shoe, spending all these years in prison when you can't, be with your family. What were your emotions in that time?
Have you ever been so excited? Just a rush of hotness just ran through my body. And I just was thankful to God, like my faith in God. And I just was like, wow, through, because sometimes, John, you can question God. Like, are you really there? You really exist?
Mm-hmm.
And, it was times I had my doubtful moments, but that went right. Everything was just like, I had to see many people call. And they don't give me the CARES Act, which I felt like was unfair, but it was just that God had another plan. So in that moment, I just was happy, and I was like, it's finally here. And I was telling them, y'all can have everything. I don't want anything. My locker's open, babe. Take what you want.
That's incredible. So when you did get out, what was the first thing you did?
Okay, my father flew in from New Jersey, and my mom and them picked him up at the airport. So my sister, my brother, my sons, my two best friends, they all came in a Sprinter and, picked me up. Oh God, that walk from walking out of that gate to, to the car, it just seemed like it was a long walk, and then I started running, and it just felt so good. And we just, hugged, of course, and cried. Mm-hmm. And we just sat there like talking for a while, like went to get something to eat and just sat there and talk. I got car sick. They had to stop and give me some nauseous pills. I guess I had moved it so long, so I got car sick. But that first night, I really didn't do anything, just enjoyed my family. And, one of my play brothers, Clifton, he did all the driving. We just laughed and joked. I really didn't do anything that first night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, once you'd been out for a while, what would you say, what was the biggest obstacle, the most difficult adjustment to kind of either relearn or learn for the first time?
I would say my biggest obstacle is that doggone computer. It's not so much the fun, it's technology, and even though I know some computer stuff doesn't leave you. But say, for example, like right now, when I got ready to get on my MacBook to do the podcast, I had to end up using my phone because it was saying that StreamYard, the computer doesn't, support it. So that probably is like my biggest thing, the computer.
Yeah, that's got to be. So, that's got to be, it's frustrating for me when I deal with stuff like that. But so how do you deal with, because a lot of people don't think about that. When an individual gets out of prison, they have all these, there's little hurdles everywhere. How do you deal with that frustration when you come up on it? One
day the printer went offline. John, you would have thought that they said I had to go back to prison. Oh, I was losing. I couldn't figure it out. Like, why is it offline? The Wi-Fi was on. I tried that. I tried unplugging it. So in that moment, I just was so frustrated. And I just couldn't, almost to the point where I was almost about to cry. Like, I cannot believe I can't get this printer to get back online. But I end up calling one of my friends, T. Michael. He's very very tech savvy. And he helped me and walked me through what he was saying. First, he was saying we was going to undo the modem. I'm like, no, is that going to make the TVs go out too? I don't feel like reprogramming. So, yeah, okay, we'll try it another way, sunshine. So we did. We just took it off and added it back in Zoom, just like that. It was back working. But he, at first I had given up. I was like, just forget it. I'm not doing it. It doesn't matter. I'll talk to you later. But he wouldn't give up. So I'm just thankful for him too. But in those moments, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. So let's talk about, the things you're doing since you've been out.
Okay. So while I was in prison, I wanted to do a T-shirt line, and the name of the company is called. And They like,
It
why
just
that? And I'm
it
like,
just cut out there when you can you say that again? It just cut out right when you said that.
it's called Felons Rock. And people like, why would you name your company Felons Rock? And I'm like, because we do. Some of the most smartest people are incarcerated, and some of the most creative people are home and can run Fortune 500 companies and everything. But it's like felons aren't really given a fair chance. And a lot of people are embarrassed about being a felon. And I just want to take that stigma, that sting away from it. Hey, you made a mistake, but life still goes on. You have to pick the pieces up and go on. And I just feel like if you served your time, there's no reason why America should still treat people the way that they do once they come home from prison. If you served your time and you did what you're supposed to do, you should be able to reintegrate back into society as a citizen, not having to wear like a cloak of shame. So I created Felons Rock and started my t-shirt line. I'm in the process of publishing my first book, which is a self-help book that will be out soon. And
Awesome.
I mentor with the DA's office. I mentor children, who are already on probation to try to deter them from going down the path that I chose, to tell them, it's not too late, because they're still young, they're teenagers. So I just kind of been in that field of work. And I work with an organization, Freedom for Choice, with Dr. Omar Howard. I work with them in the Offenders Alumni Association. So I do a lot of volunteering to mentor and do administrative work for them. But I know that I'll spend the rest of my life in this, this genre. It'll be reentry and criminal justice reform.
Mm-hmm. Well, I told you before when we were texting back and forth that I love the name. I love Felons Rock. That's a great brand. And I mean, it's true. It's, if you think about, there has been some good criminal justice reform, not enough, but there has been some real good stuff that has happened in the past, 5, 10 years. It's not moving quickly enough, but the driver behind that is felons. It's been people who have been in the system. It wouldn't have happened any other way. And I mean, and there's a reason for that, because they know exactly what needs to be changed, where the system is broken, because they've experienced it firsthand, people like yourself. So I love that. And I wish you the best of luck with your t-shirt line and with, meeting your goals and meeting your vision with that. And along the line of vision, I like to ask people, it's been since January since you got out, so it hasn't been that long. You haven't had much time. So just thinking ahead a little bit farther, if you look out 5 or 10 years from now, what types of things do you see for yourself?
Public speaking. That's my dream. Public speaking. I want to be a motivational speaker. Not
Awesome.
want to be. I am going to be a motivational speaker. That's what I want to do. And also my nonprofit, Chance to Change. And like I told you earlier, it's geared towards children whose parents are incarcerated, but not only just the kids, but the parent as well, to maybe create a curriculum for them to share, to be able to stay in contact with each other. Like you said, I've been through the system, so I know what it takes to get through. And I also know what it takes to help deter. And, we talk about reentry and we talk about recidivism, but we never talk about actually breaking the chain and the root of it. So it starts, and we have to catch the children at a young age, especially those who have parents that are incarcerated. So that's where I see myself. I just see myself, trying to break another chain down in this unfair system, that we have, and just rock it out as a felon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Striking the root. I mean, if you don't get to the root of the problem, you're not going to solve the problem. So that's, that's an
Make
awesome
sure you get
thing.
a t-shirt, felonsrocks.com.
Definitely. And I will put that on the show notes page as well, so people can find the link there too. Angela, thanks for coming on the show. I'll just give you a minute here. Anything else you want to share with my audience, or anything else you need to plug? Social media, anything like that?
Okay, yeah. So on social media, on Facebook, I'm Felons Rock, Instagram, Felons Rock. The book will be coming February, Pit to Palace Mentality, 10 Key Principles to help you see your way through your worst situation. It's not just woo-hoo stuff. It's really good principles. Like I said, doing 17 months in solitary confinement, that's like going in your bathroom, not your big bathroom, your half bathroom, your half-size bathroom in your house. Just imagine going in there and closing the door in there. And that's just how big that room is. So all I had was myself, my thoughts, and God. And I was able to get through. And I know it's people out there, especially now, it's the holiday season. A lot of people depressed or, discouraged or whatever. But what I used to tell myself, and I'll share with everybody else, is just wake up in the morning, put your foot on the floor and put one foot in the other and just go forward. Just keep moving forward. We have to push forward, keep going, not looking back and not being scared. Thanks again, John.
Well, thank you, Angela, for coming on the show. And I look forward to seeing, what you accomplish here with your book and everything else. And love to have you back on once it all happens.
Definitely have me back on when this book get published.
All right. Sounds good, Angela.
All right. Thank you so much, John, again.
Hope you all enjoyed that interview on Finding Freedom. Another awesome guest. And hopefully you guys also have subscribed to the Lions of Liberty podcast, and you're getting all 3 of our unique shows in your little listening device delivered to your ears. If you haven't, please do that. Just go to your app, you know how to do it, and subscribe. You can also leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment. We would prefer if you did it on Apple Podcasts, but anywhere you can on the internet, please leave us a positive comment. Also, if you want to support us, we would love that too. Please go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. You can support us for as little as a couple bucks, or if you get in at a higher level, you get merchandise and access to us, and all the way up to you can advertise on the show or get to even produce a show. So check it all out, patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. And if you haven't checked it out yet, please consider checking out the Lions of Liberty store, where we have some awesome t-shirts. We have a Taxation is Death t-shirt with an awesome design. We have a Wax On, Tax Off t-shirt. And we have our brand new design, our Hands Up, Don't Nuke t-shirt. I'm not going to lie to you. It is our best t-shirt we've ever made. So go to lionsofliberty.store. You need to buy this t-shirt. Hands Up, Don't Nuke. It has a really dorky-looking redneck guy with his hands up. Hands Up, Don't Nuke in big letters with the bombs pointed at him. It is phenomenal. You need this shirt at lionsofliberty.store. And if you're in the Pride, you get a discount on anything you buy in the store. So you do both of those things and you win. That's all I got, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.